The war room on Arcturus Station buzzed with excited voices. Dozens of alien beings sat around the massive circular table, their eyes fixed on the holographic display floating above them. The blue and green planet rotating slowly in the center looked peaceful and unimportant. Commander Zixithera stood at the head of the table, her forearms crossed behind her back. Her purple skin gleamed under the bright lights, and her large black eyes studied the faces around her. She had seen this look before on many worlds, the eager anticipation of an easy victory. "Gentlemen," General Korak spoke first, his red scales catching the light as he leaned forward. The Korvaxi military leader's voice carried the confidence of 1,000 battles. "This primitive world will fall within 3 solar cycles. Our scouts report they still use chemical rockets and metal projectiles. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Nods and approving sounds came from around the table. The Nexari representative, a tall blue being with multiple eyes, projected technical data into the air. "Their energy output is minimal. No plasma weapons, no force shields, no faster-than-light communication between their settlements. They are truly backward." Commander Zixithara remained silent. She had requested this meeting, but now she wondered if anyone would listen to what she had to say. Around the table sat representatives from 12 different species, all part of the great hegemony that controlled most of the galaxy. They had conquered over 300 worlds together, and Earth was supposed to be just another easy addition to their empire. The Vorthak delegate, a floating creature made of energy, spoke without moving its mouth. Its thoughts entered everyone's minds directly. "My people have scanned their minds from orbit. They are chaotic and disorganized. No unified command structure. They fight among themselves constantly. They will surrender the moment they see our fleet." More approving murmurs filled the room. Zixithera watched as species after species agreed that humanity posed no threat. The Drakmor showed images of human cities, calling them primitive clusters. The Zenthari displayed human military formations, laughing at their simple weapons and basic tactics. Finally, Zixithera raised one of her hands. The room fell quiet. She had earned respect through 50 years of military service and the conquest of 17 worlds. When she spoke, others listened. "I have studied these humans for 6 months," she began, her voice calm and measured. "I have watched their wars, their disasters, their daily lives. There is something about them that troubles me." General Korax made a dismissive gesture. "Commander, with respect, you worry too much. Look at the data. They have no weapons that can harm our ships. Their fastest vessels cannot escape our slowest fighters. This will be over before it begins." "That is exactly what worries me," Zixithera replied. She moved to the holographic display and touched a control. The peaceful image of Earth was replaced by scenes of human history, battles, rescues, disasters, and recoveries. "Every species we have conquered followed the same pattern," she continued. "When faced with superior force, they calculate their losses and surrender when the cost becomes too high. It is logical. It is sensible. It preserves life and resources." The Nexari representative's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "Of course. That is how rational beings behave. Are you suggesting these humans are not rational?" Zixithera manipulated the display again. Now it showed human soldiers carrying wounded comrades under fire, human civilians running toward danger to help strangers, human rescue workers digging through rubble for days to save a single person. "I am suggesting they operate on different principles," she said quietly. "Watch this." The display showed a human military unit surrounded by enemies. The logical choice would be to surrender and save lives. Instead, the humans fought until the last soldier fell, buying time for civilians to escape. Not one of them surrendered, even when offered the chance. "Foolish," muttered the Drakmor representative. "They waste lives for no gain." "Do they?" Zixithera asked. The civilians escaped. The enemy was delayed. The mission succeeded even though the soldiers died. She paused and looked around the room. "They do not see individual survival as the highest priority. They see group survival as more important than personal safety." The Vorthak delegate's energy form flickered with confusion. This is illogical. The individual is paramount. Personal survival drives all rational behavior. That is what every species we have conquered believed, Zixthera said, and that is why they surrendered when the cost became too high. But what if we face a species that does not calculate cost the same way we do? She showed more images, human parents sacrificing themselves for their children, human soldiers sharing food with prisoners, human doctors treating enemy wounded. Each example seemed to confuse the assembled leaders more. They are pack animals, Zixthera continued. But unlike other pack species we have encountered, they extend their pack loyalty beyond their immediate family or tribe. They will fight for strangers. They will die for ideas. They will continue fighting even when victory seems impossible. General Korak stood up, his scales rattling with irritation. Commander, you are seeing patterns that do not exist. These humans are weak, divided and primitive. They cannot possibly pose a threat to the combined might of the hegemony fleet. Perhaps, Zixthera said softly, but I recommend we proceed with caution. Send a small force first, test their responses, learn their capabilities before committing. Our full strength. The room erupted in laughter. The Zenthari representative spoke between chuckles. Caution? Against a species that still uses gunpowder weapons? Commander, your reputation for thorough preparation is well known, but this time you go too far. The Nexari delegate's eyes focused on the display. The mineral wealth of that planet will fuel our expansion for decades. The sooner we claim it, the better. Every day we delay costs us resources. One by one, the representatives voted. The decision was unanimous except for Zixthera's abstention. The full hegemony fleet would move against Earth within one solar cycle. It would be a massive show of force designed to make the humans surrender, immediately. As the meeting ended and the other commanders filed out chatting excitedly about their easy victory, Zixthera remained behind. She stared at the holographic display, now showing Earth again in all its blue and green beauty. She had tried to warn them. She had shown them the evidence, but they saw only what they wanted to see, a primitive world ripe for conquest. They did not see what she saw, a species that might be more dangerous than any they had faced before. Zixthera touched her communicator. Prepare my ship, she ordered. I want to observe this conquest personally. She paused, still staring at the rotating planet. And have my personal escape pod ready at all times. Something told her she might need it. The alarm bells rang across Earth's orbital defense station. Captain Jake Morrison rushed to the command center, his boots echoing in the metal corridors. Through the large windows, he could see them, hundreds of alien ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They looked like nothing humanity had ever built, sleek and deadly against the black of space. Report, Jake ordered as he reached his command chair. Around him, dozens of human officers worked at their stations, their faces tense but focused. Sir, we count 437 enemy vessels, reported Lieutenant Amy Collins, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. They're in standard attack formation, moving toward Earth at half-light speed. Jake nodded grimly. Earth's defense fleet consisted of only 43 ships, most of them converted cargo vessels with weapons bolted on. They had known this day might come, but knowing and being ready were two different things. Signal all ships, Jake commanded. Take defensive positions around the planet. Protect the civilian evacuation routes at all costs. On the alien flagship, General Korax watched the human response with amusement. The tiny human fleet was moving to protect their world, but their ships looked like toys compared to the hegemony, vessels. Each alien cruiser was 3 times the size of the largest human ship. They are actually going to fight, laughed the Nexari tactical officer. Look at those primitive vessels. Our shields alone could ram through their entire fleet. Commander Zixthera stood behind them, watching the tactical display with growing unease. Something about the human formation bothered her. They were not spreading out to maximize their defensive coverage as logic would dictate. Instead, they were clustering around specific points in space. What are those locations? She asked, pointing to the areas where human ships gathered. The Nexari officer checked his instruments. Civilian transport routes, Commander. They appear to be protecting evacuation ships. Sixthera's four eyes narrowed. The humans were outnumbered 10-1, facing certain death, and they were worried about protecting civilians instead of fighting for victory. It made no tactical sense. Begin the attack, General Corax ordered. Target their military vessels. First, once their fleet is destroyed, they will surrender. The alien ships opened fire. Beams of energy that could melt through solid rock struck the human vessels. Several human ships exploded immediately, their crews dying in brilliant flashes of light. But the remaining ships did not retreat. Instead, they moved closer to the alien fleet, returning fire with their primitive weapons. Captain Morrison watched two of his ships die and felt anger burn in his chest, but he pushed the emotion aside and focused on his duty. All ships, pattern, Delta, protect the transports at all costs. The human fleet reorganized itself around the civilian evacuation ships. Even as alien fire tore through their ranks, they maintained their protective formation. Jake saw the USS Denver take a direct hit and begin to break apart. But instead of fleeing, the damaged ship used its remaining power to ram an alien cruiser. On the Hegemony flagship, confusion spread through the command crew. The humans were fighting in ways their battle computers could not predict. When a human ship was damaged, instead of retreating for repairs, it would attack more aggressively. When alien forces targeted civilian ships, the human military vessels would break their attack formations to intercede, even if it left them vulnerable. Their tactics make no sense, the Zenthari weapons officer reported. They sacrifice tactical advantage to protect non-military targets. Our computers cannot predict their next moves because their actions are illogical. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked frantically in her research station as explosions lit up the space around her. She was trying to establish communication with the alien fleet, broadcasting messages of peace and requests for negotiation, even as their weapons targeted her station. Dr. Hayes, her assistant called out, "We're receiving direct fire. We need to evacuate." "Not yet," Lisa replied, her fingers flying over her control panel. "If we can just make contact, maybe we can stop this fighting. There has to be a way to communicate." An alien energy beam struck the research station's outer hull. The lights flickered and alarms began to sound. Lisa's equipment sparked and several screens went dark, but she kept working. She managed to establish a communication link just as another beam hit her station. "This is Dr. Lisa Hayes of Earth," she broadcast on all frequencies. "We want to talk. We want peace. Please respond." Her words reached every ship in both fleets. On the alien flagship, the communication officers looked at each other in surprise. The human was trying to negotiate while her station was being destroyed around her. "Should we respond?" the Nexari officer asked. "Ignore it," General Corax growled. "It is a trick. Continue the attack." But Zixthara was listening carefully to the human's words. Even facing death, this human was trying to save lives through communication. She was not begging for mercy or offering surrender. She was asking for dialogue. The battle continued to rage around the planet. Human ships died one by one, but each loss seemed to make the survivors fight harder rather than weaker. When the transport ship Mercy's Dream took damage and began to drift helplessly with 300 civilians aboard, Captain Morrison immediately broke off his attack run. "All ships converge on the Mercy's Dream," he ordered. "Cover the rescue operation." "Sir," Lieutenant Collins protested, "that will leave the northern quadrant undefended. The aliens will break through." "Those are 300 people, Collins," Jake replied firmly. "We don't leave people behind." The entire human fleet abandoned their strategic positions to protect the damaged civilian ship. Alien forces poured through the gap in the defense line, but the humans continued their rescue operation. Ship after ship moved to shield the transport while rescue shuttles evacuated the civilians. On the alien flagship, the tactical officers watched in amazement. The humans had just sacrificed their best defensive position to save a single transport full of civilians. It was the most illogical military decision they had ever witnessed. "They are insane," The Drakmor representative muttered. They choose to lose the battle to save a few hundred individuals. But Zixthara saw something different. She saw a species that valued every single life, even when logic said those lives should be sacrificed for the greater good. She saw a species that would rather die fighting than live in defeat. General, she said quietly, I recommend we pull back and reassess our strategy. Nonsense, Corax replied. They are beaten. Look at their losses. They cannot possibly continue fighting much longer. Zixthara looked at the tactical display. The humans had lost over half their fleet, but the survivors were still fighting with the same intensity as when the battle began. If anything, they seemed more determined now that their friends had died. That, she whispered to herself, is exactly what worries me. 3 days after the space battle, alien forces landed on Earth's surface. The hegemony had won the fight above the planet, but the cost had been much higher than expected. They lost 47 ships to defeat the human fleet, when their computers had predicted losing maybe 5. Dr. Lisa Hayes sat in a small metal cell aboard the alien mothership. Her research station had been destroyed, but she had been pulled from the wreckage and taken prisoner. Her hands were bound, but her mind was still working. She studied her captors through the transparent wall, trying to understand their behavior and find a way to communicate. The Nexari guard outside her cell had 4 eyes and blue skin. He seemed nervous, checking his weapon every few minutes. Lisa noticed he jumped whenever footsteps echoed in the corridor. These aliens were afraid, she realized. But afraid of what? On Earth's surface, Colonel Ben Parker crouched behind the ruins of a building in what used to be downtown Denver. The aliens had bombed the city from orbit, but instead of surrendering, the surviving humans had gone underground. Ben had been organizing resistance cells for the past 2 days, and the result surprised even him. Report, he whispered into his radio. Charlie team destroyed another supply convoy, came the reply from Sergeant Kate Wilson. The aliens are getting smarter, though. They're using bigger escort groups now. Ben smiled grimly. The aliens were learning, but so were the humans. Every attack taught both sides something new, but the humans were adapting faster. On the alien mothership, General Korak studied the reports from the ground forces. His mood grew darker with each page. The humans were supposed to be broken by now. Instead, they were fighting harder than ever. Explain this to me, he demanded of his intelligence officer. We destroyed their fleet. We bombed their cities. We control their orbital space. Why are they still fighting? The Zenthari officer shifted uncomfortably. Sir, they appear to be using guerrilla tactics. Small groups attacking our supply lines, and then disappearing. Every time we eliminate one group, 2 more appear. That is impossible, Korax growled. Where are they getting weapons and supplies? From our own forces, sir, the officer admitted reluctantly. They are stealing our equipment during the attacks. They are also manufacturing improvised weapons from civilian materials. Commander Zixthara entered the briefing room at that moment. She had been analyzing human behavior patterns, and her findings were disturbing. General, I need to share my observations with you. Not now, Commander. Korax waved her away. I am dealing with this insurgency problem. That is exactly what I need to discuss, Zixthara insisted. The insurgency is not random. It follows a pattern I have never seen before. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's surface. Red dots marked the locations of human attacks, while blue areas showed alien control zones. Every species we have conquered before followed the same behavioral pattern, she explained. Initial resistance, then gradual acceptance as the population realizes fighting is hopeless. The resistance decreases over time as casualties mount. Yes, Korax agreed impatiently. Standard conquest psychology, what is your point? Look at the pattern here. Zixthara highlighted the timeline of attacks. Human resistance is increasing, not decreasing. Every day we kill some of them, but more humans join the resistance. They are not being worn down by casualties. They are being motivated by them. In her cell, Dr. Lisa Hayes overheard 2 guards talking in their own language. She had been working to learn their words, and she understood enough to be alarmed. They were planning to execute prisoners to break. Human morale? Wait, she called out to them. I can speak your language a little, please listen. The guards stopped and looked at her with surprise. One of them, a tall Drakmor with green scales, approached her cell. You learn our words? He asked in broken English. Yes, Lisa replied in his language, her pronunciation rough but understandable. I want to understand. Why do you fight us? What do you want? The Drakmor guard looked confused. You are enemy. We conquer. You surrender. Simple. But we are not your enemy, Lisa said carefully. We never attacked you. We never even knew you existed until 3 days ago. The second guard, a floating Vorthak, drifted closer. Its voice entered Lisa's mind directly. Resistance is futile. Your species will serve the hegemony or be destroyed. But why? Lisa pressed. What did we do wrong? Why do you want to destroy us? The question seemed to confuse both guards. They looked at each other uncertainly. The Drakmor finally spoke. You have resources we need. Your world is useful to us. This is how conquest works. But we could share, Lisa suggested. We could trade. We could work together. There is enough for everyone. The guards stared at her as if she had said something impossible. The concept of cooperation with a conquered species seemed beyond their understanding. Meanwhile, Colonel Ben Parker was discovering something equally surprising about his own species. In every resistance cell he contacted, he found the same pattern. Humans were not just fighting to drive the aliens away, they were fighting to rescue captured humans, to protect civilians, and to help other resistance groups. Ben, this is crazy, Sergeant Wilson told him during a brief meeting in an abandoned subway tunnel. My team spent all day yesterday helping evacuate wounded aliens from a crashed ship instead of attacking them. Why? Ben asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. They were hurt, Kate replied simply. Some of them were just kids, probably younger than my daughter. We couldn't just leave them to die. Ben nodded. It was the same story everywhere. Human resistance fighters would risk their lives to save alien prisoners, even though those same aliens were trying to kill them. It made no military sense, but it felt right to the humans doing it. Back on the mothership, Zixthera was presenting her final analysis to General Corax and the command staff. These humans do not fight like any species we have encountered, she concluded. They do not calculate victory and defeat the way we do. They do not see this as a territorial dispute or a resource competition. They see it as a survival imperative for their entire species. So? Corax asked impatiently. So they will never surrender, Zixthera said quietly. Even if we kill 90% of them, the remaining 10% will continue fighting. Even if we kill 99%, the last 1% will still resist. They are not fighting to win. They are fighting to ensure we pay the highest possible price for victory. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Zenthari officer spoke first. You are saying they would rather die than submit? I am saying they have no concept of submission, Zixthera replied. To them, there are only two possible outcomes. They drive us away or we kill them all. There is no middle ground. General Corax stared at the tactical display showing Earth. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt a chill of genuine fear. How many worlds have we conquered using fear and overwhelming force? He asked quietly. All of them, Zixthera answered. But fear does not work on a species that has already accepted death as preferable to surrender. Commander Zixthera's report traveled through subspace channels to the Hegemony High Command on Centros Prime. The massive council chamber housed representatives from every species in the Galactic Empire. When her message arrived, the hall erupted in disbelief and anger. Impossible, declared High Admiral Vexkar, his metallic voice echoing through the chamber. One primitive world cannot threaten the entire hegemony. General Corax is clearly incompetent. Supreme Chancellor Korth, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell, spoke without emotion. Commander Zixthera requests additional forces and suggests a complete withdrawal. This is unacceptable. The conquest of Earth will proceed as planned. On Earth, Colonel Ben Parker received a coded message that changed everything. The transmission came from Luna Base, humanity's secret military installation on the moon. The message was simple but devastating. Package delivered to all colonies. Instructions confirmed. Protocol 7 is now active. Ben smiled for the first time in days. Protocol 7 was humanity's final contingency plan, something they had hoped never to use. Every human colony in space had just received detailed information about the alien invasion and instructions for coordinated response. Dr. Lisa Hayes had been moved to a larger holding area with dozens of other human prisoners. Among them were soldiers, scientists, engineers, and civilians from around the world. What surprised the alien guards was how quickly the humans organized themselves into a functioning community. "We need to establish communication with the resistance," whispered Dr. Carl Nash, a physicist from the European Space Agency. "I can build a transmitter from the electronic components in this room." "I'll help," offered Maria Santos, an engineer from Brazil. "But we need someone to distract the guards." Lisa nodded. "I've been learning their language. I can keep them talking while you work." The aliens watching them could not understand this behavior. In every other conquest, prisoners became demoralized and hopeless. These humans were planning escapes, sharing resources, and maintaining morale. Worse, they were treating wounded alien guards with the same care they gave their own injured. Captain Jake Morrison had survived the space battle in a damaged escape pod. He now commanded a small fleet of human ships that had scattered throughout the solar system after the defeat. Instead of fleeing to distant colonies, they were conducting hit-and-run attacks on alien supply convoys. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Amy Collins from her position at the sensor station, "we have confirmation. The aliens are requesting massive reinforcements from their homeworlds." Jake studied the intelligence reports. "How massive?" "Over 2,000 ships, sir. They're calling it the Final Armada, designed to completely destroy human resistance." Jake felt a cold determination settle in his chest. "Signal all human colonies. Tell them it's time." Across human space, the message was received and understood. Colony after colony began implementing plans they had hoped never to use. Mining stations became weapons factories. Transport ships were converted into bombers. Civilian populations volunteered for military service in numbers that shocked even human commanders. On the prison ship, Dr. Lisa Hayes had managed to establish contact with the resistance on Earth. The news she received was both encouraging and terrifying. "Ben, is that you?" she whispered into the improvised communicator. "Lisa, thank God you're alive." Colonel Parker's voice crackled through the static. "Listen carefully. We've been in contact with the outer colonies. Every human settlement is mobilizing for war." "How many people are we talking about?" Lisa asked. "All of them," Ben replied simply. "Every human being in space has volunteered to fight. We're looking at the complete militarization of human civilization." Lisa felt her heart sink. She understood what this meant. Humanity was choosing extinction over surrender. If they could not drive the aliens away, they would make the cost of conquest so high that the aliens would never attempt it again. Commander Zix Thera stood before General Corax with her final intelligence assessment. The news was worse than anyone had imagined. "Sir, our scout ships report massive military buildup throughout human space. They are converting their entire civilization into a war machine." "Let them," Corax growled. "The final armada will arrive in 10 days. We will have 2,000 ships. They have maybe a few hundred scattered vessels." "General, you are missing the point," Zixthera said urgently. "They are not building a fleet to fight our armada. They are building thousands of small ships designed for one purpose, to attack our supply lines and home worlds." She activated a holographic display showing human space. Red arrows indicated the probable attack routes human forces would take. "They cannot win a direct battle against the final armada," she continued, "so they are not planning to fight one. They are planning to attack every hegemony world simultaneously, while our main fleet is here at Earth." The implications hit General Corax like a physical blow. "They would attack civilian populations?" "No," Zixthera corrected. "Our intelligence indicates they are targeting military installations, government centers, and supply depots only. But the psychological effect will be the same. For the first time in hegemony history, our homeworlds will be under attack. On Earth, the resistance had grown beyond anything the aliens could have imagined. Entire cities had become underground military bases. Factories that once made consumer goods now produced weapons and explosives. Children as young as 12 were serving as messengers and scouts. Captain Morrison received reports from across the solar system. Human colonies had become armed camps. Every available ship was being armed and crewed. Most shocking of all, civilian volunteers were signing up for suicide missions in unprecedented numbers. "Sir," Lieutenant Collins reported, "we have volunteers for over 300 ramming attacks against the incoming armada. They're calling themselves the Final Stand Squadron." Jake closed his eyes. 300 pilots willing to die to destroy enemy ships. It was magnificent and horrible at the same time. Dr. Lisa Hayes had become an unofficial leader among the prisoners. She spent her time learning more alien languages and trying to understand their psychology. What she discovered horrified her. "They've never faced anything like this," she told Dr. Nash during one of their whispered conversations. "Every species they've conquered surrendered when the cost became too high. They have no experience with total war." "What do you mean?" Nash asked. "I mean they have no idea what they've started," Lisa replied. "They think this is still a normal conquest. They don't understand that humanity has decided this is an extinction event. We're not fighting to win territory or negotiate terms. We're fighting to ensure that attacking humanity is so costly that no alien species will ever try it." Again, the alien guards had begun to notice changes in their prisoners. Instead of becoming more demoralized over time, the humans seemed to grow more determined. They shared food equally, cared for the sick and wounded, and maintained discipline without harsh punishment. Most disturbing of all, they showed genuine concern for injured alien guards. Commander Zixithara made her final recommendation to the Hegemony High Command. Her message was brief but clear. Immediate withdrawal recommended. This species represents an existential threat to the hegemony. They do not surrender, they escalate. The response came back within hours. Recommendation denied. Final Armada. Will resolve this situation permanently. Prepare for total conquest. Zixthera stared at the message and felt fear unlike anything she had experienced in 50 years of military service. The hegemony leadership still did not understand what they were facing. Humanity was about to show them. The Final Armada arrived at Earth exactly 10 days later. 2,000 alien ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. General Korak stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that this overwhelming show of force would finally break humanity's spirit. "Begin the final assault," he commanded. "Destroy every human ship in space. Bomb every city on the planet. Leave nothing standing." But as the Armada moved toward Earth, alarms began ringing throughout hegemony space. On over 50 worlds, human strike forces appeared simultaneously. Small fast ships emerged from hyperspace near military bases, government centers, and supply depots across the alien empire. Captain Jake Morrison led one of these attacks on the Korvaxi homeworld. His small fleet of converted civilian ships faced the massive orbital defense platforms protecting the alien capital. The odds were hopeless, but Jake had not come here to win a traditional battle. "All ships remember the mission," he broadcast to his crews. "We're not here to conquer. We're here to send a message." The human ships began their attack runs. One by one, they rammed themselves into the alien defense stations, each explosion taking out weapons platforms that had protected Korvaxi space for centuries. Jake watched his friends die and felt pride mixed with grief. They were giving their lives to show the galaxy that humanity would never surrender. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Hayes and the other prisoners felt the ship shake as the Final Armada opened fire on the planet below. Through the small windows in their cell, they could see the bombardment beginning. Cities burned under alien weapons, but still the humans did not despair. "They're bombing hospitals," whispered Dr. Nash, his face pale as he watched the destruction. "Then we rebuild them," Lisa replied firmly. "And if they bomb them again, we rebuild them again. We keep rebuilding until there are no more bombs left to drop." The alien guards outside their cell looked confused and frightened. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human forces had attacked over 50 hegemony worlds simultaneously, not to conquer them, but to prove that nowhere in alien space was safe anymore. Commander Zixthara received the reports with growing alarm. The humans had kept their word. They were making the cost of conquering Earth so high that the hegemony would never recover from it. "General," she reported to Corax, "we are receiving distress calls from our homeworlds. Human forces have successfully attacked military targets on 53 planets. Casualties are estimated at over 200,000. Corax turned from watching the bombardment of Earth, his face twisted with rage. "Impossible. Our homeworlds have the best defenses in the galaxy." "The humans are not trying to conquer territory," Zixthara explained. "They are using suicide attacks to destroy our infrastructure. Our defenses were designed to stop invasion fleets, not individual ships willing to die to complete their missions." Colonel Ben Parker emerged from the underground tunnels of what used to be New York City. The aliens had been bombing for 6 hours, but the human resistance continued to grow. For every human killed, 2 more joined the fight. For every building destroyed, the survivors built new weapons in the rubble. "Ben, we just got word from the space colonies," Sergeant Kate Wilson reported. "Every human settlement has launched their attack fleets. The aliens are under attack everywhere at once." Ben nodded grimly. This was the moment humanity had prepared for. Not just the people of Earth, but every human being in the galaxy had committed to the same strategy. If the aliens wanted to destroy humanity, humanity would make sure the aliens paid a price that would prevent them from ever trying again. The battle above Earth was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Instead of trying to defeat the final armada in direct combat, human ships engaged in ramming attacks. Converted cargo vessels, mining ships, even passenger liners loaded with explosives flew directly into alien cruisers. "They're all committing suicide," the Nexari tactical officer reported in horror. "Every human ship is a guided missile." Lieutenant Amy Collins sat in the pilot seat of a converted mining ship, watching the alien flagship grow larger in her view screen. She thought about her family back on Earth, about the children in the underground shelters, about the future humanity was fighting for. "This is for everyone who never got the chance to fight back," she whispered, and pushed her engines to maximum power. The mining ship struck the alien flagship just below the bridge. The explosion tore through multiple decks, killing hundreds of aliens and crippling the ship's command systems. Amy Collins died instantly, but her sacrifice disabled the enemy's primary command vessel. On his damaged bridge, General Corax finally understood what Commander Zixthara had been trying to tell him. These humans were not fighting a normal war. They were fighting an extinction war, where the only acceptable outcome was the complete elimination of the threat to their species. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender offers from multiple sectors. Our commanders are requesting permission to withdraw." "No," Corax growled. "We finished this." But even as he spoke, reports continued pouring. Inhuman attack forces had destroyed spaceports, weapon factories, and military academies across 53 worlds. The psychological impact was devastating. For the first time in 1,000 years, alien civilians lived in fear of attack. Dr. Lisa Hayes felt the prison ship shudder as another human ramming attack struck home. Through her cell window, she could see the final armada beginning to break formation. Ships were fleeing the battle, their crews unwilling to face the suicidal determination of human pilots. "Lisa," Dr. Nash called softly, "look at the guards." The alien guards outside their cell were no longer standing at attention. They huddled together, speaking in frightened whispers. The reports from their home worlds were spreading panic throughout the alien fleet. Commander Zixthara made her final report to what remained of the Hegemony High Command. Half the council members were dealing with attacks on their own worlds, and those present were clearly shaken. "The humans have achieved their objective," she announced. "They have demonstrated that attacking their species results in immediate retaliation against our entire civilization. They are not trying to win this war. They are trying to make sure we never start another one." Supreme Chancellor Korth's crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. "What do you recommend, Commander?" "Complete withdrawal," Sixthera replied without hesitation. Immediate cessation of all hostile activities, and a formal declaration that humanity is to be avoided at all costs. That would mean admitting defeat to a primitive species, High Admiral Vexcar protested. No, Sixthera corrected. It means recognizing that this species is not primitive. They are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, and we have awakened them. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in hegemony history, they voted to retreat from a conquest. Captain Jake Morrison, his ship heavily damaged but still fighting, received the message he had been hoping for. The alien fleet was withdrawing, not just from Earth, but from human space entirely. All human forces, he broadcast across multiple channels. The enemy is retreating. But remember, we are not done. We hunt them until they understand that humanity is not prey. As the surviving alien ships fled Earth's solar system, they carried with them a new understanding. Humanity was not the galaxy's most dangerous species because they were the strongest or the smartest. They were dangerous because they were the only species that treated every conflict as existential, the only species that would rather die fighting than live in submission. Dr. Lisa Hayes stood in her cell, watching the alien fleet retreat, and whispered the words that would become humanity's motto in the galaxy. We are the species that never surrenders. We are the species that never forgets. And we are the species you should never, ever hunt. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, not for what they could destroy, but for what they would sacrifice to protect their own.